And yesterday, we spoke to the finance minister. He was on the show when he presented the budget for 2025. Today, we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to have a people's forum. Remember, the budget is about people. And often what we do as journalists is that we get too fixated on talking to the politicians and the experts, etc. We don't go to talk to the real people, the people who matter, the people who live the economy on a daily basis. And that's what we're going to be doing tonight here on PM Express. And just before we sit down for that conversation and hear from the market women, the farmers, etc., on what they make of the budget, I want to quickly lay out for you the key areas affecting various sectors of the economy, market women, farmers, industry, etc. So we just have that basis before we have the conversation. So we get straight into it and they give us their responses and reactions to it and how this will affect their own lives, the businesses they do in Mokola, etc. One of the key things, obviously, is the taxes that have gone. Of course, if you are a betting man, that is something that you will look at. COVID-19 levy is going to go also. We know that is going to affect your bottom line also. E-levy is going to go. The market woman who thrives on Momo transfer, mobile money transfers, this is going to have a direct impact on her business. So that is one thing that we'll hear their thoughts on. Emission levy too, obviously, is one that you're paying anyway, and that will get a thoughts on that too. VAT or motor vehicle insurance is going to go. It's going to make it cheaper for you to afford your insurance. Withholding tax on winning on processed gold is another key thing that we also know is going to go and may affect ordinary people also, but also for those in the mining areas and small-scale mining. One district, one factory will go. What does that mean for industry? We'll hear the thoughts of the AGR on that. The U-Start was one that was there in the past to target the young people. It's going to go. Government is replaced with something else. We'll check which of these two will best serve the interest of the young man. Young man will be here with me to answer that question. And then you also obviously have that very key intervention of the Ghana Cares, which is going to go. We have the Mahama Cares that is taking over. Now, a key other thing that we need to look at, and these are also important things that will affect education. So parents are interested in this. We'll hear the thoughts of parents tonight as far as the budget is concerned. The couple they get fund and NHIs from VAT, that will mean a lot. You look at the road fund, get fund, NHI will be on cap, more money. And we've been told already by the minister yesterday that the funding source they've identified for free SHS is going to come from here. What does that mean for parents? Are they now having a layer of comfort when it comes to the quality of education, what their children will eat, etc.? How are parents reacting to this? It affects them. We'll get your thoughts on the reversing of the VAT flat rate on the VAT flat rate regime. What our business is saying to this, we'll get the on-the-ground lived experiences on this particular matter. But let's talk about the pocket. The pocket is a very important aspect of our daily lives. What does this mean for your pocket? If you listen to the finance minister, they're doing a few things, and they expect that if you're taking, for example, 1,000 CDs purchase, once all this restructuring is done, you should save 19 CDs, if you like, based on our calculations. And so if you have a multiply effect, the more you buy, the more you save. And so that clearly will have an impact on households. We'll talk to households tonight on PM Express, right? And then you talk about the effective VAT rate will also going to go down, more money in your pocket, households begin to feel it. We'll talk about that when we sit down and hear the households give us their reactions to this. The key initiatives for the business community too, that is important to highlight. The quarterly dialogues will come in. What are the businesses saying about this? Governance, procurement, spare local demand. And I've heard the AGI say this is very good because, again, it's going to help them. Government is the biggest procurement, I guess, agency, and they want to tap into that. Increase in the school feeding cost. Parents will give us their reaction to this. 683 million teacher and nursing trainees. We'll hear from students also giving us their reaction to this here on PM Express. But not only that, they then get to ask any other questions they have directly to Felix Kwachifusu, who will join us for a conversation and take the questions. Then, of course, if you look at the free SHS allocation, this is the highest yet we've had of 3.5 billion, but they have capped the uncapped they get fund now, so there's more money available for that. 564.6 million allocated for free textbooks. So if you're a parent, this is important for you. We hear the parents tell us what their thinking is around this and how much of a difference it will make. Free level 100 initiative. Again, parents getting their wards into school in September when a new academic calendar begins will be giving us a reaction to this also. Now, the key interventions, right? If you are a woman and a Mokola, and we'll have a woman who sells and trades in Mokola join us, who will want to go and get a loan from a bank but is struggling, how much of a difference will the Women's Development Bank make, for example, to her and her business? I don't know. We'll get her to tell us. Assemblies are going to get 100 million. They're going to be getting some stipends there. Capitation grant is important. Kosovo Dam victims will get something to free sanitary parts. We'll hear the mothers tell us what this means for them here on PM Express. And then, of course, the 24-hour economy is a very important part. But the Labour Export Program is another one that was announced yesterday. Will that make a difference? Will parents, will workers now sign up to this? Let's hear them directly, have a conversation with us. Of course, then there's an unemployment question that needs to be fixed too, right? I want to hear from the students. This National Apprenticeship Program, 300 million going to be given to it. How are students positioning themselves, students' parents positioning themselves to get the most out of this? A Jumeirah program, 100 million. How much of a difference will this really make, considering that other programs in the past, led by government to employ, have not really worked? What's the difference here? I'll get them to ask directly to the government spokesperson. National Cadres Corps is also going to be something that we're going to be looking at and getting reactions to. If you look at the Feed Ghana program, this is the agri sector. We're going to get a agri take also here. How much of a difference will this make? 1.5 billion. Is that even enough to deal with everything else that the government is proposing to do? Those in the agri sector, the farmers will join me. They're going to have a conversation with us on this. So there's a lot to cover tonight. Stay with me. After the show, my guests will join me in the studio pretty shortly for this conversation to happen. This is a roundtable. It's a town hall conversation on the budget. Ordinary Ghanaians coming together to put the questions to those who have put this forth for us to consider. Here on PM Express after this. PM Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. This is a conversation with everyday Ghanaian, and I am delighted to introduce my guest. It's also brought to you, as you know, by Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, and we always recommend that to you. This really is an open forum, a forum to engage the everyday Ghanaian on the subject of the budget. Yesterday, we had the finance minister here for a conversation. That was good. We asked him a few questions, but the budget is about real people. It's about all of us, and we are happy to have assembled just the right strata of Ghanaians representing various sectors of the economy who can now speak to the matter and give us their reactions to it. And so I'm delighted to have all of them joining me. And in the studio, I want to start by introducing my very great guests who we've put together for this conversation. Moses Dramani he is a business owner and an electric products importer and supplier. And Moses, thanks for joining us. His shop is Ad Mercy Electricals and Electronics Enterprise. And so you should look out for him. Where is it located? Somewhere in Accra? Kaswa. Okay, so when I come to Kaswa, I'll look for your shop. But he's here. He's traveled all the way to be part of this conversation because he's been following the budget. I want to hear his thoughts on this. Eldad Bright, with as a student. Hello, Bright. You good? Great. And I want to hear your thoughts on the budget also, how it affected you and which areas it directly dealt with. We have a farmer with us. He calls himself a farmer general, but he's a farmer fundamentally. And I'm delighted that he joins us. Hello. Hi. Great to have you. And he is the Nana Obuadi. Obuadi. Second. Good. Nana is joining us. And the president of the Concerned Farmers Association, he's coming from the farm. That's why you see him. He's been doing it. And so he brings that into the studio. Delighted to have you. And Eric Defo is the chairman of the Economic Affairs Committee of AGI, also joining us on Zoom. That is very important because of the sector that they obviously cover. And I also have with me Anthony Morrison. He's the CEO of the Chamber of Business, the Agribusiness Ghana. And again, we brought him because of the agri part of the budget to hear his thoughts on it. But I guess when you look at the guests that I have, I'm delighted to actually introduce you Josephine Kokoi Ama. And she is coming from Kantamanto. She's a trader in Kantamanto. And when I used to, live in Adabraka, that's why I used to go to buy my clothes very early in the morning, first selection. Best place to go for all things clothes. I'm happy that Josephine joins us. Hello, Josephine.
Hi.
Thank you very much for joining us. They live the economy. And Finance Minister was in that part of Accra before the budget. So we want to hear her. Now they've had the budget. They didn't meet the expectations. Josephine will give us a sense. And then with me, obviously, is Felix Kwachifosu, who's a Minister of State, Government Communications. I'm going to ask less questions today. I want my guests to do the questioning because they live the economy and they will live the budget. So they have the best questions. I'll just ask them to ask the questions and then just simply moderate. But also with me is Dr. Mahamatia Abdul Kabiru. His government was in power just a few months ago. And so they also have a stake in all this. So I've invited him to give me the alternative, I guess. And so they also have questions for him. And so he joins me as a member of the Finance Committee, MP for Wale Wale. All of you, thank you very much for joining us on PM Express. And I want to start very quickly, 2 minutes each. And this really will define the conversation. What were your priorities when you were listening to the budget, and were those priorities met? Okay. And I'll come to all of you, but I want to start that question with Morrison. Very quick 2 minutes. What were your priorities when you're going in, and were they met in the budget?
Okay, Evans, thank you very much. And regards to my colleagues and Honorable Minister, Honorable MP, and my brother farmer and other trade people. Yes, of course, we're particularly happy with the fact that at long last, the Akosobo Dam spillage victims will be settled. You know that enclave is a major vegetable production zone for the country. Don't forget that Ghana imports quite a huge amount of vegetables annually, $600 million in tomato importation. And that also, the same applies to onion, and the list goes on and on. Another area that we're happy with was the AgriNet. The issue of access to land is a major concern, and we are happy that His Excellency the President has put this in. We also saw the fact that, last year we were talking about droughts, and we've seen that focus being put in place by the 24-hour economy to target irrigation, which is a major concern. So that is also apt. We are also very happy with the fact that we see the Feed Ghana project and also the VDP, okay, which is focusing on the greenhouse and the vegetable production. Let me also say that I want to also, on behalf of the Chamber and the industry, applaud His Excellency the President for the work he has done in Burkina Faso, visiting the Burkinabe President to resolve the issues we are having with the ban. I think that this is a good leadership that we all want to see. And we've all been talking about the agriculture trade. And Burkina Faso is a major trade partner when it comes to agriculture trade in West Africa. In fact, most of our official data on food trade is actually recorded on that border. Okay,
so as far as the budget is concerned, you mentioned a few things that you were happy with.
There is one thing we've been fighting for, which is the 20% excise duty as a result of the imposition of, which is the Act 1093 of 2023, which was imposed by the former regime. We think that if really wants to push the vegetables, the fruit juice sector.
So the excise duty is on what exactly?
It's actually a 20% excise duty imposed on the fruit juice and juice sector, the factories, so the likes of Blue Skies, the likes of Ekunfi Juice, Central Fruit Juice Factory. We're talking about an industry that can virtually give Ghana no less than...
You didn't hear a policy intervention that addresses that?
On that. And for us, that is where we are looking for, because that alone, Ghana imports over $300 million worth of fruit juice. Okay. And
so you would have wished that you had that.
Ghana's fruit juice. Let me.
No. I need to go around.
But I just want to tie it in with this.
Okay.
If that exemption is taken out, the tax can be taken out because we import a lot.
So you didn't fruit juice.
Yes. That would have resolved, and that would have been giving Ghana no less than $10 billion annually if that is resolved.
Great. Okay, so that's the thoughts there of Morrison from the agribusiness. Let me come to the student. And you also listened I believe, and I know you have your laptop because you've made notes, and that's a very good one. Tell me, what's your own take? What were the priorities, and did they address them? Did the budget address them for you as a student?
Okay, so there are several aspects the budget addressed. Even though we still have questions we want to ask, let me just quickly go through the key areas that.
As a student,
yes,
and speak directly from your own perspective. Okay.
Yes. So we were looking out for, we have junior brothers and sisters who are still in SHS. So the president thankfully kept in line with keeping the free SHS alive by they dedicated 3.5 billion to sustain the free SHS program, and then there was 145 million on the capitation grants to support basic education funding in public schools. And then they addressed issues on textbooks so that they can still provide textbooks to basic schools. There was also the issue, there was a budget for the infrastructure development under the Big Push program. That was also one thing that we are excited about, because there is a lot of overcrowding and facilities that do not befit students across the country.
So you're hoping that the Big Push will also address infrastructure on campuses?
Yes.
Okay, campuses. So hostel accommodation, residential facilities, lecture halls, etc.
In fact, we are like I said, we have brothers and sisters, junior brothers and sisters. We want them to also feel that effect of the.
So I see what you're talking about. So even for free SHS, you're saying that the part of the challenges that the previous government had was they didn't have enough space to accommodate the explosion in the enrollment numbers. And so, so you want the Big Push to target that?
Yes, we are hoping that this budget will improve on the challenges that the previous administration was having with them.
And one question I will ask Felix is whether the Big Push will address that too.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, and then for tertiary education and then student support, we are also we were glad to hear that something has been allocated, about 500 million Ghana cedis has been allocated for under the no academic fee policy. It's difficult for parents mostly, when you are entering the university for the first time. There are a lot of costs that one has to bear. So with this, I believe it's going to actually bring less stress to parents. Then also there was teacher trainee allowances to support future educators. I think that one too is also good. It's some sort of incentive or a motivational factor to help teachers also do their best in the classroom. Then there was also an increased funding for the student loan. I think that is also something that students would be able to take advantage of, and in the long run is going to help them do what they are supposed to do, as in be students and come out, with less stress.
Was there an expectation that wasn't met? Particular priority that you didn't hear or wasn't addressed adequately?
We would like to hear more on that.
Okay.
We would like to hear more.
Any particular thing that going into the budget you were expecting that you didn't hear? Or would you say they ticked all the boxes for you as a student?
I wouldn't say they ticked all the boxes, but I would say they touched on the salient issues, yes. Okay. But there are still questions that we'll have to ask.
Okay, and I'll come back to that, though you can put that question to Felix.
Okay, so there were bits and pieces about TVET and then...
Yeah, we'll come to that, though we can expand. At least now I know what your priorities are. I want to bring in the farmer with us to give us his thoughts on the budget, and from a farmer's point of view, what were the priorities and what they meant?
Yeah, thank you very much. There's one thing that the cocoa farmers were looking at, talking about the welfare of the cocoa farmers, and then thinking that maybe the budget, there will be some enough funds for that sector. But then we cocoa, yeah, for the cocoa farmers, but we did not hear anything like that. And then also the 1.5 billion, I think we don't know, they did not categorize the whole thing for it to know where this one is going, this is heading towards this and that. Because when budget is being read and then it's been allocated, let's say GFA like this, the money gets into the GFA coffers. But when it comes to the farmers, where does the money goes? The past government did the same thing, and then it was bad. And then the agri sector declined. And is this government also going to continue the same thing? Or maybe there are some changes that they are going to do? Because as a government, you don't need to deal with individual farmers. You need to deal with the farmer groups. And it is even in our constitution that we have a body that is in charge of all farmers and fishermen in this country. But the past government ignored or neglected such a body that was there. That was the reason that farmers do not got what they were supposed to got. And at the same time, most of the things got misplaced in a way. Because talking about fertilizer like this, when the fertilizer comes around, where does the fertilizer goes? Whom are they going to give the fertilizers to? And at the end of the day, the Ghana government don't even know the number of farmers in the country. Because if they do know, like they will know when they are making the budget, they will know the amount of money that they can put it in place. Talking about the youth, doing John Dramani Mahamad's manifesto, he promised the youth a lot of things, and then youth in agriculture, and then even with this, the budget that was being read recently, bringing the youth back. We have a program that we name it Back to the Village campaign that we are doing. We are trying to put up most of the infrastructures like buildings within the farming community so that the young people that they are in the cities can get back to the villages and they can get a place to lay their head and then farm. They put up infrastructure in the budget. I don't know if the infrastructure that they put in, there is housing within it. Because if you
for farmers?
If there's housing.
Okay. Generally, or housing for farmers?
Housing for farmers. I mean, not for we the farmers, but then for the young ones that they are coming. Because those that they are from the cities, most of them now, as I'm speaking to you, we have something that they call a red, Winning Red. You see, it's killing the people. It's killing the young people. And we need to get all these young people from the street to the villages to go and farm. Okay,
so your point is that you need to have incentives for them to move from the cities to
exactly.
Go and farm.
What I want to know is, we have started already, and our chief that have given the allowance for us for you to put up these buildings.
Okay.
You know, we need support from the government as well. But what you are saying is there any budgetary allocated for such housing project? Because if you are telling the young people to go to the villages to farm, or to engage them into farming, where are they going to lay their head?
When they go, okay.
The problem for the young people in this country, not that they are lazy, but because they don't have a place to lay their head.
Okay. Hold your horses for me. I think you've asked very pertinent questions, so I'll return to that briefly. Let me go to Moses. Moses, what about you?
Okay, thank you.
As a businessman,
yes.
selling in Kaswa.
Yes, as business,
the budget.
As businessman, my assessment with this budget is that it's good because some expectation has been met. Okay, the major one was the e-levy. E-levy is something that the previous government, it was an issue, but currently...
How did that affect you as a business person?
Oh, as an importer, it affects me so much. Anytime I'm doing transaction, I'm charged by 1% of my capital for importing. So it's something that it affects my business. So if now it has been removed, I think it's very good. And then some other taxes has also been removed, which is good for business. Okay, that means as a business person, if less tax, that means more profit. So it's good for business. However, there are other taxes that we're expecting that it should be removed or abolished, especially the import special levy, which is something that we're expecting that it should not be part of this budget, but it finds itself and it has been even increased by percentage, which is something that as a business person is worrying because we've managed through up to 2024, which we know that is the expiring date of import special levy, but it finds itself again in the budget. Okay, so I think that is one aspect of...
That you wish they have done it?
Yes, please.
Okay. I would love now to hear from Auntie Josephine. Auntie Josephine, so Kantamanto, did you listen at all? I'm sure you picked up a few important facts about the budget.
Yeah.
So giving your assessment now from the Kantamanto trader's point of view.
As my brother rightly said, for us traders, what we need is the dollar to come down, and then other essentials that we think help us, you know. I heard them talk about the Women Development Bank.
Okay.
That is very, very good for us as business people. Recently, you all hear that Kantamanto was burnt. And so in time like this, if this development bank has come, it will help a lot of us. It will help us very, very much. And then the national apprenticeship, where we are now, we have, I think I have about 5 or 6 people who have already benefited from it. And so if it has come, that is going to be continued, and they have put a lot of funds into it, it will help the women as well and help the nation. And then that's in Kukon Kitten. I have a question about that.
Okay, please ask. And Felix will take it.
Is it about only the Nkoko
Okay.
that the government is going to help the people with? Or because we have other things like snails, like pig, like a lot of things. So is it only the Nkukon Kitten that the government is going to help the people with? And then I heard that they are going to buy Ghanaian products. It is very, very good. Very, very good. Because that will help us, the Ghanaian people, to develop more. We have so many things in the market that when outsiders come, they appreciate. But in fact, in our community, some of them don't even care about those things. But in the market, you see outsider will come, just a doll that somebody has been able, Kantamanto is a whole world.
Yes.
They have a lot of things, a lot of talents are there. Somebody can just design something. When you see it, you will never believe it's from that place. And a lot of outsiders appreciate those things. But we Ghanaians, when we see them, tell you are wasting your time. You see, so all these things, when it comes, and this government, I think, for a start, it's a good beginning. When it goes on like this, it will help the Ghanaian community.
Okay. So I'm going to now allow you to ask your question directly.
Right.
And then Felix will take it. All your questions, throw it at him because he needs to address as many of them before he takes leave. So you ask him directly.
All right, Mr. Felix.
All right.
Honorable, I asked about the Nkukon Kitten. Is it going to be only the Nkukon Kitten or other stuffs that will help the Ghanaian community?
All right. Do I need to answer?
Oh, yes, go.
All right,
And then whilst you do that, then you've heard everybody, so you can also then take your time to
all right. What we call Nkukon Kitten, which unfortunately our political opponents sought to mock when President Obama first mooted the idea, is part of a program that we call the Agriculture for Economic Transformation Agenda, which involves a swathe of activities aimed at boosting agriculture. So if you go under that program, there's what we call the Feed Ghana program. There's the Ghana Grains Development Project. There's the Vegetable Development Project, and then Nkukon Kitten, which essentially is what we call the Poultry Farm to the Table project, essentially aimed at bolstering the poultry sector, which incidentally, as we speak, has collapsed. Now, it is the case that we are starting with poultry, but we are aware that there are many other things that can be done within the framework of animal husbandry, within the framework of snail rearing, within the framework of other things that can be done in that sector. But it is part of a comprehensive program. So no, it is not just about having chicks giving you to go and raise in order to build a poultry farm on your own. We are going to help farmers who grow vegetables, those who are into grains, soya beans, and what have you, those who grow rice, those who grow tubers, yam, cassava, and what have you. So it's a comprehensive program that involves a lot of activities. And we've devoted 1.5 billion Ghana cedis for doing so. Some have raised the issue about whether or not this is adequate. But for a start...
And then I raise the point about 1.5.
Of course, one would have wanted a situation where a lot more money is devoted to it. But given the state of the economy and the resource constraints that we have, government has put in this money in the belief that if we start this way and we continue and show consistency, we are going to get to a situation where the industry grows. And you have a situation where those who have benefited initially grow their capital in order to be able to reinvest. Others too who may have some capital and may be wondering where they need to invest it may also come in to invest because it is a lucrative venture. But eventually, as the economy expands, as more money becomes available to government, we are going to increase the allocations to ensure that as many of our people as possible are able to venture into agriculture, which we believe is one of the ways that we can create jobs, especially in a situation where unemployment remains one of the biggest problems that we have. So in a nutshell, madam, it is not just about or little chicks. Yeah. It's about a broad range of activity within the agriculture sector.
You mentioned unemployment, and I know, Auntie Josephine, you had a question about unemployment. I also come to you, the student who also had a question about that. Please ask him that question. You were giving me a very personal story before we came on air.
All right. I was talking about the youth. I am a single mother. I've taken care of 4 children. All of them have been in the university. I even brought one of them. He has finished school for 5 years. He's a computer engineer. He can create apps and things, but he cannot get a job. He can't get a job to do. It's not about my son alone, but about a lot of us. Me, I'm in the market, so I'll talk about the market women. We suffer and sweat before we take care of our children, and especially when we are single parents. And then it will get to this point, and then the child cannot move. You will still be taking care of the child because you cannot leave the child to be stranded. How is the government? How are they doing? What are they doing about this thing that we are talking about?
Right, Evans and Madam, thanks for the question. It's an important matter for President Mahama and the government. Indeed, we are aware that one of the reasons why we won that big in the 2024 elections is that the youth rallied around our cause. And they did so because of expectations they had, that given the difficulties they had been through, which ensured that up to about 2 million Ghanaian youth did not have employment, we're going to do things that would ensure that they find some employment. The son that you speak about, for instance, you say he's someone who has an IT background, has done something about computing. There's a program we call the 1 Million Coders Program, for instance. Even though we call it 1 Million Coders Program, which would suggest that we are focused only on coders, it involves a broad range of activities. There's room for people to be trained in web designing, web hosting, and other such activity along the ICT value chain. 100 million Ghana cedis has been put into that program. There's also something we said about setting up a fintech fund that will come much later. We aim to put up.
So clarify, the 100 million, will it go to training them?
Of course, there are those who need training. The others, like Madam's child, Madam's son, I beg your pardon, may need some further upgrading in their skill to be competitive within the job market. Once that is done, there are those who can set up on their own because they are coders. There are people who can go out there and search for jobs in the area of web hosting, web designing, and what have you, so that they find employment. They also become competitive on the job market because there are entities that may want to employ them because of the specific skill sets that they have. So that one too has been addressed. There are other job creation options. For instance, when we talk about Big Push, it essentially is about spending huge amounts of money to build modern infrastructure, which has the potential to open up our country and accelerate rapid economic development. Now, the process of spending on construction of these major projects would involve the employment of persons, both skilled and unskilled, to help execute the projects. For instance, there are people who may be civil engineers, who may have finished school and are sitting at home. There are people who may be architects. There are draftsmen. There are surveyors and what have you. These are quantity surveyors and what have you. These are people who have skills. They've gone to school and trained. There are also others who may not have any skill at all, but they may offer labor. There are others too who have skills in carpentry, for instance, in masonry, in steel bending, and what have you. All of these people get employed during the time that construction is ongoing. And you find that that is a place where the chunk of people get employed. Because if you spend money to build a road, to build railways, to build facilities in the ICT sector, to build energy infrastructure and what have you, you are going to employ these people. In addition to that, Madam earlier spoke about the National Apprenticeship Program. Yeah. It's important, Evans. On my own, as someone who was vying to contest the AAK seats, I distributed about 1,200 machines, sewing machines, hair dryers, hair clippers, and what have you, to many young people So at a point, every other week, I was invited to a graduation ceremony because these people have graduated. And the moment they graduate, they set up on their own because they already have a machine. Even sitting on their porch at home, they can make dresses for people and begin to earn some income. Now, I find that all those who I assisted in that way never came back to me for any support because they began to earn income almost immediately they graduated. So government is committed to ensuring that people within our society who are desirous of learning a trade, whether in dressmaking, in welding, in masonry, and what have you, are assisted. First of all, they are going to be trained. You know, there's a whole informal sector where you have people we call masters, basically master craftsmen. Some of them are dressmakers, some of them are masons, what have you, who know the trade. So they take on these apprentices who they train over a certain process. So the idea is to engage these people formally, assist them with whatever they may require, either some little capital or some technical support, to be in a position to render this kind of training. And then give them these apprentices to train over a period. When they graduate, they get a set of tools that they will be able to set up on.
All funded by the government.
All funded by
How much did you allocate to that in the budget?
For now, 300 million Ghana cedis has been allocated, and we intend to scale up as we go on. And it is one of the surest ways of creating employment, because if you give the person a skill and you equip them to do so, they are in a position to fend for themselves without adding on to
hold on to the
unemployment.
Eldad, you are a student.
Yeah.
Happy with the answer? Because you also had a question about unemployment.
Yes.
Or you have a follow-up. I'll come to you. And then I'll come to you, Kabiru, pretty shortly. Yes.
So I think regarding unemployment, my question was going to be how the 2025 budget addresses the link between education and then unemployment, which is to ensure that graduates, you know, from especially looking at the TVET and then tertiary institutions, yes, will they have access to job opportunities or entrepreneurial support? Did
their apprenticeship policy intervention, the 300 million they are allocating to that, does it address that question, do you think?
If I may ask a supplementary question.
Please do. Please do.
But I want to take it to the area of accountability and transparency. How are we going to ensure that the allocation to that program is actually being used, and how are we going to measure the results that are eventually, or the results that we are expecting? That's my question.
Very, very good question.
Right.
I want you to address that, and I'll come to you because it's linked.
Absolutely. So the first question he raised about how graduates who come onto the job market on a daily basis will find employment. There are many ways that one can gain employment. Some of these programs can be taken advantage of. For instance, the 1 million coders program, it would be for persons who have acquired some education and have some skill set at various. There may be some SHS graduates, there may be tertiary education graduates who still may be interested in doing this, so there's opportunity for them. There's another one we call the Agribusiness program, which essentially is an entrepreneurship program. So you may have completed school, but you may have a knack for entrepreneurship and venturing into business and risk-taking. So you receive some training, you get some startup capital to begin some small-scale entrepreneurial activity. That is how you begin to fend for yourself.
You want to comment on that? I'll come
in order that you are able to. And you find that people who do that are then able to employ their colleagues. So a young entrepreneur may be able to employ 1 or 2 other colleagues of his and start a business. You begin small. Of course, as the economy expands, there will be opportunity for the private sector also to begin to employ people who have specific skill sets that they may need. President Ama has made the point that we also need to pay a lot more attention to TVET, because the grammar school system has the tendency of producing graduates who may not necessarily readily fit into the job market because they may lack certain skills. So attention must be paid to TVET, where people are then imbued with skills that are readily required on the job market so that they will be able to do. But to do that, you still need to go through school first. And there are people who complete senior high school who are unable to get into universities and other tertiary institutions because of funding. Because I'm an MP, so I know at first hand. I have been inundated with requests by people who want their fees paid before they can go in. I mean, our friends used to make a song and dance about free SHS. The argument was that people cannot afford to go senior high school, so they need their fees paid. So we do know that senior high school fees are considerably lower than tertiary education fees. So if people cannot pay fees at the tertiary level, at the SHS level, why are they expected to be able to pay fees? So 499 million Ghana cedis, which is actually the exact cost that the National Council on Tertiary Education brought when they did their scenario analysis on how much it will cost for that program to be implemented has been allocated. And all first-year students, including those who have paid already, will have their money.
And briefly to the second part of his question.
Yeah. As for accountability, of course, it runs through everything that we do.
But specifically on the... specifically on the apprenticeship, he wanted you to clarify for him what is the accountability mechanism.
But of course, all these programs will be implemented by specific agencies, all of whom are subject to periodic auditing. So their programs will be followed closely. And where we find that there has been any diversion or any wrongdoing regarding the disbursement of funds, action...
What is the implementing agency?
I think in respect of the National Apprenticeship Program, it is a Ghana Entrepreneurial Agency, which used to be the National Board for Small-Scale Industries in the past. Now, under the Ministry of Trade, that would be the vehicle through which this will be...
Yeah. Just hold on for me. I know you have more questions, but hold on. I know
just one.
Another question. You ask it, but he will come and answer it later because I want to take other views.
I wanted to provide a point of information.
Very briefly. Yeah. Very briefly.
You know, I'm also the chair of the Ghana Agriculture Sector Skills Body of TVET Commission. Okay. So I have a lot of information on there, which is a private sector role I play with the private sector players. Now, when we're doing the engagement process, we already have the apprenticeship policy. We have also worked on what is called the workplace experience learning, okay? Now, if you look at the gap, the skills gap, we have developed what is called the labor skills market gap, okay, which was used to dovetail into what we have now. What that takes in place is that it actually fills the gap. We know from the point of training, in terms of skills training, what the industry required. I'm an industry person, while developing curriculums for the trainees, okay? So we have put in place a lot of this curriculum from the technical universities all the way to the TVET institutions. So you can talk about the TVET colleges, the TVET centers, in agriculture terms, the agriculture colleges, the farm institutes, and all the way to the technical universities. And all this is geared towards making sure that we are able to fill the gap in terms of the skills, the labor market demand, and also the skills gap shortages. So I think that should be able to...
Okay, quick follow-up, and I'll make a note of it, and then he will come back and address it. And I want to hear from the farmer, and I'll hear from Kabiru now.
There was another part where I was asking, how are we going to measure the results?
Okay.
How are we going to measure the results? Because what we've seen over the years are, we've created 1 million jobs, we've created 2 million jobs, but you still get that feel that, no, we are not feeling that effect. Then they mention, then we are told some agencies that has recruited this and that number of people, but we can't really measure or tell for real if you have actually taken you've given 1 million jobs. So how are we going to measure that results? And we want to, how is it going to be transparent that the ordinary Ghanaian can know that, oh yes, students completed school, they've received some skills, they are working and they are getting something. Easing the tension in the...
Very good question. He'll answer it, but I want to hear from Nana, the farmer.
Yeah, this one goes to Honorable. I heard him saying about the entrepreneurship program. And then Madam also talked about the Women's Bank. I think the name ADB have to change to Farmers Bank because ADB don't support farmers. I had an award 2011 as a young entrepreneur. And I'm into food packaging and processing. I'm the first black African to package live crabs and then even local gin. Package it, We've never had support. The past government, the same thing. There's a program for young people, this and that. We follow up and then nothing happens. And as I'm speaking to you, there are foreigners that they want us to move from Ghana to go to their country for we to even to train their own people. We have the skills. We can do it. This is even one product that I'm holding.
What's
this
that?
Is, I call it Obuade Kuyapimpolo. It's native snacks made of coconut and then local flour. We have fish, Kobe and other things being packaged. Sardine, we import sardine. We have fish that is packaged with pepper and everything that you can eat it. It is my own product.
So you need capital to expand?
We need capital. We are not getting it. Even support. And sometimes the agencies the people that they put them there, sometimes need to be scrutinized very well. And then we need, because in Ghana, what I notice is wrong people get the right job. Wrong people are getting the right job and they are getting the agencies. Yeah. And then they are killing the dreams of young Ghanaians. The right ones. I had an award of 2011, young entrepreneur. With all this product, it's getting waste. I stopped going to exhibition because patent doesn't work in Ghana. You go, you showcase your product, the next day, your product will be in the market with a different name. You see, so we had a strong belief, and then we voted for John Dramani Mahama because of his promises and the things that he made. I want to ask Honorable that what about we that we are in the business already? I'm a farmer, I'm into food packaging and processing, and then at the same time, I train young people into this. And then also, the ADB, the name ADB have to change.
Okay.
If you have the Women's Bank,
question,
if you have the Women's Bank, we need to have the Farmers Bank so that they can support. And then the interest rate of with the farmers should be a single digit.
Okay. Okay. For what? For when you go out to borrow. Okay, good. 2 questions there. I'll come to you too. You also have a question. Ask it so that you can put it together. Ask it. So one about measuring outcomes, and then one about support for farmers, access to capital, and of course the question about the ADB, single digit. Okay, let me hear you. The electricals trading man.
As a business person,
from Kaswa.
One major issue about business is the exchange rate.
Okay.
Right.
And Auntie Josephine also mentions that keeping the dollar stable, yes.
Yes, as the previous government, we had something like good for oil, trying to stabilize the cedi. So we want to find out what are the processes, or what is the government doing to stabilize or reduce the rate, because these are something that is killing business. And then also the interest rate. When you go to the bank sector, when you try to borrow, it's like the rate is outrageous. It kills business. So I want to find out what is the government doing to also at least reduce the rate, because with the interest rate, that one is coming from Bank of Ghana.
Okay.
I think the government can do something about it.
Okay,
and then lastly, one major issue that I want to find out, why the betting is a business. And why are they saying those who are doing into betting business, they don't pay tax? One thing is that, you see, your government is treating the betting industry as if NGO. It's like, yes, we are encouraging. You see, when you say an NGO, a non-profit organization, I'm taking out all taxes, don't pay because what you are doing is good, continue. Enlarge it because maybe you are helping the society. But betting is a business. And why are we saying that? Always we come to complain that, Ghana, our tax net is very small. We at least only 30 or 40% are paying tax. But this is an area that almost, now you can say that almost 50% of the youth are into betting. And now you said you need no tax. It seems like that is why they are burdening us. Even today, let me say yesterday, I had GRA, they came for assessment, and those, you see, realize, I say, you are coming to us, always forcing us, always coming to do assessment, and then, but what about those who are just there betting, which is and that is also an easy area to collect your tax, because it's electronic. So I want to find out.
So that's a tax question. That's a very important one. And what do you quickly make of the government policy in the budget yesterday?
Yes.
To reform VAT.
VAT, yes.
Completely. The flat rate, I think he says, is going to go a whole holistic, package of reforms. What's your take on that as a business?
Oh, it's very good, because I have worked with GCNet, let me just mention, because I've worked with GCNet, I know all the tax component, and mostly the importers are confused. You go here, import duty, import special tax, import everything, VAT, NHI, all there. So at times the importers who are not conversant with our tax regimes, they go out to see as if the agent is trying to cheat them, but it's not true. It's the government. So if they are going to reform it, I'm happy with that.
Moses, thank you. So 3 questions. He'll take it, and then I'll hear from Kabiru. Kabiru, there's a lot on your plate. When I come to you, don't worry, you'll get the time to address them. I hope you've made the keynotes of the issues. So I want to hear the alternative. You've had the questions. Yes, Felix. So let's start with the question about how you're measuring outcomes.
Well, I think it's pretty straightforward. For instance, if we have invested 300 million Ghana cedis to train apprentices to learn a trade, the way you measure it is how many apprentices go into training, how many of them graduate, and how many of them set up. That is fairly easy to as it were, recount. And as I've indicated, this will be subjected to strict auditing and verification because these are established agencies that have a history of undertaking these sort of interventions. So there should be no difficulty at all with learning how this program has gone and what the specific benefits are. Of course, exchange rates depreciation is a major concern for businesses and households. In fact, it was one of the most debilitating problems with the Ghanaian economy. The catastrophic mismanagement of the exchange rate in the last 8 years resulted in a near collapse of our currency. Within a space of 6 months, in 2022, the currency moved from 6 cedis to $1 to 17 cedis to $1. That was catastrophic. There was no way that any economy or business could withstand that. And it had to take very, very painful measures, including very painful haircuts, the DDEP, which drove many people into penury for some meager gains to be made. As I speak to you, it hovers around 15.5 to 16 Ghana cedis, which is still extremely high for many businesses and households. So the devastating effects of the exchange rate mismanagement by the previous government can never be denied. The finance minister yesterday gave indication that when he visited the markets and interacted with business people and traders and what have you, the overriding concern they had were price stability and exchange rate management. And therefore, measures will be deployed to ensure that the currency remains stable and prices remain stable. One of them is a gold board system, which through an aggregation system would ensure that we get sufficient gold reserves to back the currency in order that it remains stable. And once that is done, many of our problems will be addressed. Now, betting tax. We are taxing betting companies on their earnings like any other business. So they pay corporate income tax like any other business and are subject to any other businesses that are charged on any other taxes, I beg your pardon, that are charged on businesses. What we have removed the tax on is the betting winnings by the people who do the betting, because we find that there were many youth who were driven into that activity because of hardship and the need for them to find something to do to make ends meet. It is not the most desirable of occupations, or if you like, hobbies. But at the moment, many people are finding solace there. Do you create difficulty for them by going to tax their meager winnings when you have not been able to give them employment and they are struggling to find their feet in these matters? We believe that it is important to remove that particular tax on winnings. But as for the betting companies, there's no way they are escaping taxation like any other business. So rest assured that we are not going to let betting companies get away with incomes that they make or revenue streams that they make from the business that they apply. But it is a winnings that we have removed the taxes on. And I think that it is something that has been widely received, well received by people. And it shows that it was something that was really suffocating people. And we need to do something. In terms of VAT, the minister has said, of course, that the whole VAT system has been distorted. And people are paying far more than they should pay. The decoupling of NHIL and get fund levies from the VAT is proved disastrous for businesses. It was a backdoor way for government to impose a 5% increase on VAT charges. So the effective rate is now over 22%, which is one of the highest anywhere in the world. And therefore, it was not sustainable. But to touch just one component and leave the rest will not address the problem. So there's a need for a comprehensive review. And the minister has initiated that. He hopes that by the close of this year, that would have been achieved.
The farmer talks about
which then will pave way for
capital for farmers.
Absolutely.
The cost of capital is just so expensive.
That is true. It must come down. Indeed, the cost of borrowing for businesses generally in Ghana is too high. At a point, it rose to almost 40% for business, and some banks were charging 40%. The rate is simply too high. It is not sustainable for businesses, and government will do something. But the whole macroeconomic environment needs to be addressed. If you have a situation where inflation went up as high as 54% and is now hovering around 22%, it is way too high. The currency depreciated by 19% last year. The previous year, it depreciated by 24%. Indeed, the year before then, it went up by 54%, which is completely disastrous and cannot be missed. If you have a situation where your fiscal deficits are consistently in double digits and make investors and other key stakeholders in the economy lose confidence in you and therefore are unwilling to advance money to government for any sort of investment, you have a situation where the lack of confidence drives up these sort of rates, and it creates a major difficulty. So the Minister of Finance is working to ensure that all these things come down in a way that makes businesses survive. Because there are many businesses that have collapsed in the period. Yeah. And then you add the draconian DDEP to it. So businesses make some money. They buy government bonds as a way of putting something aside.
When do you expect to see results?
Oh, the results already. The T-bill rates have started coming down. And from a high of around 27%, now it hovers a little under 20%. And that is a sign of confidence in the economy. And we hope that it will translate into other areas of the economy. And then once confidence is built, the banks then have a bit more confidence in lending money because they know that sufficient revenue streams will be generated in order for lenders to be able to pay their debts so that their businesses will continue to stay.
And Takabri, I invited because of the alternative. And
one of my questions,
which is?
I said, how do we fit in with the entrepreneurs? With that, we are in the business already. We are into food packaging and processing. Food security, food are getting wasted. We are doing it, and we are not getting support.
So support will come. The agriculture for economic transformation agenda. Mind you, these days, the president has added agribusiness to the remit of the Ministry of Trade. The idea is that it is not just about producing basic food stuff to feed industry, households, and what have you, but processing is an important component which ensures value addition, which then increases the revenue streams that come to people who are involved in that activity. So you may be a farmer and, like my friend here, venture into agro-processing as a way of adding value to your produce in order to earn more. So that one too will be catered for. And under the Agriculture for Economic Transformation agenda, all these things will be done. Of course, we appreciate that more can be done in terms of releases, in terms of pumping funds into these activities, and they will be done.
Okay. Tia, so you've had the views across the board, various sectors are coming asking the questions. From where you sit, have the problems been addressed adequately by the government? Now there's a bit more explanations addressing some of the key issues that the various sectors have.
Also, thank you, and good evening to us all. I mean, a budget presented by a government usually invoke different feelings: hope, anxiety, fear, apprehension, all that, a basket of feelings. And it is rather expected because if the good people of Ghana, the masses, are faced with the worst economic history ever had through conspiracy of several factors, a budget of this will be treated with hope. It will be seen with, treated or considered by some with anxiety. And the feeling of Ghanaian is rightly expected. And it is my hope with the Ghanaian people that this budget would deliver. And I pray and hope to join the multitude of Ghanaian people to ensuring that this budget deliver to the good people of Ghana, because the bottom line is we are not in leadership, we are not in governance for our own selves. You can't lead when the people are impoverished. You can't lead when the people are suffering. You can't lead when businesses are collapsing. And even if you are leading such a country, I'm not sure you will lead in dignity. So it is my hope and prayer that all that has been promised are delivered. There are good tax incentives in the budget, and those tax incentives have been highlighted. There are also tax burdens also introduced. Those tax burdens are affecting, they will complain, and rightly so they have to complain, because if you are coming on the back of the fact that you want to reduce the cost of doing businesses, you promise the good people of Ghana that the burden of taxes are so huge, and then you have done well by taking some taxes, and you then impose more tax on another group of people. It's like the balance of that tax is going to be problematic. For instance, importers are complaining, Guta is complaining, because they expected that the special import levy will go. My brother mentioned about excise tax. Excise tax was not introduced in 2000. In fact, the history of excise tax started in 2014. It was implemented only in 2023. It was reviewed to include some more items. So it didn't start in 2023. It has just started in 2014.
So I only said on the fruit juice.
People are
beverages.
complaining
So I think
about taxes.
You should correct that.
No, even the
I don't want to be taken out of context.
I don't know whether you want.
And I need that to be corrected.
Even the beverages were not introduced in 2023.
No, it was 2023. Go back.
Can I
1093.
I'll come back.
I don't want to be taken out of context.
You're talking about the juice, yes.
Yes,
you
the beverage sector.
that the 20% excise duty on juice.
What was introduced as an addition was water, including all with sugar solutions in them. That was what, but beverages have always been part, breweries have always been part of excise duty. So let us not go into that. I'm saying that the history of it starts way back, and that wasn't provided. So we would want the Ghanaian people to feel that, like, look, governance is about solving their real problem. What is the first problem of the Ghanaian people? Cost of living. That's the real problem of the Ghanaian people. Whether you work, you don't work, a student, a farmer, your problem is the cost of living. Whether or not you get up, you're able to get food to eat, and whether the money you have in your pockets can suffice. How will government address this?
And the budget is a solution. Do you find the solutions in there that adequately address that?
Clearly, that's why the good things are. Clearly, I did not see how this budget addresses the cost of living crisis we have. I did not see, except to say that cost of living has a correlation with the exchange rate, which somehow touch on that. But the general picture of transportation costs, this has not addressed it. How will you bring down transportation costs, which fits into the value chain of farmers, bringing their goods from the farmers to food? It didn't address that, right? How would this budget address an issue of electricity or utility prices, which are fed into the cost buildup? This budget didn't address that, right? So the cost of living elephant in the room is a bigger one. And if you address only exchange rate, which is an issue, and you don't address transportation, which is a major issue, you don't address utility, because they buy electricity, and the cost of electricity is so high, right? The budget didn't address that. So that is one problem that the budget didn't address. And I think that that is a major issue in the budget. Other issue that the budget did not touch on, which I thought would have been able to deal, maybe they will come later, jobs creation. Look, no country has ever devolved with the government creating jobs. But if you look at the budget, it's like everything is unloaded onto the government's books.
But if you really look at the economic approach that they're adopting, with the taxes that have gone, that's more money for the businesses that they would have paid. If more money is going to the business, then the business can expand and employ more people.
I have noted that, and I've also noted that there are some taxes imposed on some businesses, and the business...
The mining sector.
Yeah, the mining sector is one, the importers is another, right? And even the extension of the growth and sustainability. The growth and sustainability levy covers companies in the telecom sector, mining sector, shipping lines, a whole lot of companies. Until you go and read the act to see the companies affected under that particular growth and sustainability levy, you will not appreciate...
So you're understanding that 3% will affect not only the companies in the mining sector?
The 3% is affecting mining, but the extension of the tax for another 3 years means that you are imposing taxes on those for the next 3 years. That's the meaning of it, right? So it's not just an extension for the mining, but there is some 5%, 2.5% affecting other category of industries. And Guta was also expecting that COVID-19 levy will go. But the government is telling us that for this year, they are going to implement COVID-19 levy. And then they are going to...
So yesterday, the finance minister was clear that as far as the tax, it's part of the tax reforms, that by the end of the year...
That's what I'm saying, that the government is clear that COVID-19 levy is going to be imposed, and they are going to realize some 3.8 billion from it for this year. After this year, they will take it off. That is the plan. And that is contained in this budget. E-levy, they are telling us that, okay, in the meantime, we want to get some 550 million from it. And that is contained in this budget, right? So,
but that is being scrapped immediately.
No, it's not immediately, because, of course, some part of the year we are still implementing it until government approves. Until Parliament approves.
Yesterday, the finance that was here, he says he's taking it to Parliament under a certificate of urgency.
No. Even now, they are collecting, and that's part of the fiscal year.
But you have to repeal it.
No. The point I'm making is that until there's no certificate of emergency, you are bringing your laws to Parliament to approve. There's no certificate of emergency. Parliament is going to approve this budget within the timeline Parliament have. 2 weeks, to approve. So there's no certificate of emergency anywhere. And if anyone is creating the perception that the certificate of emergency, it's not true.
No, he says he's going to come to Parliament for the repeal of those.
That's what, it's part of the routine.
Under that certificate of emergency.
It's part of the routine. There's no certificate of emergency. That's the point I'm making. And I'm saying that this budget is telling us that COVID-19 is going to go. But they will collect 3.8 billion for the year, after which they will let it go. And I'm saying that it is not my issue. It is Guta's issue. It is AGI issue. They want this tax to go. And they feel that if it goes, it's going to help them in their businesses. There are also issues about jobs. You see, it is so...
Once you mention AGI, I'm told that the AGI is on.
Yeah.
And what I like to do is to put to the people who live it. So just give me a second. Let me get a view on that quickly.
That's okay.
Eric Dafoe is the chairman of the Economic Affairs Committee of AGI. He's on Zoom now. Eric, give me your thoughts on what you just said, Kabiru, say about the levies that will go, but they haven't gone yet. I think the other issue that you raised is the issue about what? Kabiru, other issue raised with regards to the AGI?
Special
levy. Okay. Eric, what's your thought from the AGI on the budget generally and how it addresses your concerns?
First of all, let me find out if you can hear me.
Loud and clear. And apologies, I know you've been on quietly listening to us, so please weigh in. Hello, Eric? Okay, let's come back. Let's let him fix it. So you're going to make it one last point, and I'll come to him and
well, I think I was going to make one other point.
Yes, no, go on.
The issue of jobs, I think jobs has been an issue. I listened to my mother complain about the child completing the son completing school without job. It's an unfortunate development. If you have over 100,000 graduates coming out of the university every year, with a limited public sector, it is understandable why we still have a lot of backlog, especially so when the private sector is not to. We were thinking that there's a similar program being run. We promised a 1 million digital skills program, and that was their 1 million coders program. Now we are learning that it's not just coders, it's more about other digital and fintech technology. But we're also trying to complement that with a fintech fund of $100 million. To attract, private sector capital into it. Because, look, I believe that the son will be better off trying to use the technology, they learn how the expertise he has to set up a business that will provide a fintech solution to the good people of Ghana. There, the child can even provide more jobs, but there must be the enabling environment. If the child is employed into the public sector, he takes salary. That ingenuity, that creativity, the lesson the person has learned will not be useful.
And how would your intervention help?
That's what I'm saying, that the fintech fund was supposed to help people like that, to ensure that they set up a technology or a solution that addresses a societal problem in Ghana. So those are the ways I think that we have to think to ensuring that we create jobs, we use the government infrastructure to let private people develop their own businesses. And that was the point I was making, that if you look at the government budget, it's like every pressure and burden is put on the government. Mm-hmm. Everything they want to do, the Koko Kintikiti program, they have to provide fund for it. They have to provide fund for 1 million coders per day. Every single thing is like a burden on government. Mm. And that kind of approach doesn't drift away from a private-led development. It's still like the government taking charge in the development space.
Well, hold on for me. I want to go run one more time. And Felix, just briefly on some of the things you've said. And I'll come back to you, Mr. Morrison, and hear from AGI. Yes.
Well, it is not too clear exactly what my brother is lamenting. And one has to question his sincerity and that of his party when they lament about the COVID tax and other taxes. Because in the first place, they imposed it. They've put this burden on Ghanaians for the last 4 or 5 years or so. So I'm not exactly sure what he's lamenting. We have committed to removing it. The finance minister has shown you the clear roadmap towards doing so. We have removed the betting tax which they imposed, the emissions levy which they imposed, and other such levies which created a difficulty for Ghanaian households and businesses. So it's not too clear to me when he begins to lament. If they were so opposed to implementing the tax, why did they impose it in the first place? How can you impose hardships on people and then go out of power and begin to lament the same hardships that you impose? Clearly, he's dabbling in linguistic acrobatics in order to sound like he cares or they care about Ghanaians, but they do not. They were the ones to very stiff opposition from the NDC and other sections of Ghanaian society. They still railroaded their way through and imposed the taxes. So exactly what is he commenting on? He speaks about unemployment. Yet it was under them that 2 million Ghanaians remained unemployed. We've been in power for barely 7 weeks, and we have outlined. Oh, my mother, I kept quiet. I kept quiet when you were speaking, with the greatest respect. We have outlined a tall list of programs and policy proposals aimed at addressing the difficulty, and we are approaching this in a systematic and consistent way. We know that they will yield dividends, and the people of Ghana, before long, will begin to have basis to smile. So I'm not sure exactly what to make of the submission, and I'm sure that people watching this program will be bewildered exactly what the position is. Do they support taxation or they do not support taxation? If they do not, how come they impose so many? Indeed, at the last count, they had imposed over 40 different taxes on the people of Ghana. So how can they come around and lament the same taxes that they impose, especially when this government has committed to remove? Again, the finance minister read the budget only yesterday. The way our systems work, indeed, when they were imposing the tax did not take effect immediately. They imposed it in Parliament. It had to go through a certain process. They had to lay a bill for Parliament to approve and the President to assent to. The finance minister told you that he will go to Parliament with a certificate of agency. I'm an MP, and we are poised on the majority side to ensure that when he brings the bill, it is approved expeditiously, and the President will assent to it the same day that the bill is approved, and the taxes will be removed. So I'm not sure exactly what my brother is expressing concern about, honestly.
Okay, and just to you, Morrison, the 1.5 billion to the sector, agri sector, that is the big ticket item, right? Is that enough? I know one of the biggest conversations you have on the show was what percentage of your GDP are you allocating to agri? And I think you already have the certain ceiling based on what I think regional continental.
Based on the CADEP.
Exactly.
The new Kampala declaration.
Yes. So from there, did the government tick that box, or did they show you an indication that they're on the path to do so?
Okay, so Evans, if you look at what has been stated in the budget, the big push, there is agriculture in there. The 24-hour economies, there is agriculture in there. The Clean Ghana, the feed industries, the irrigation, so if you take the 1.5 billion just for the purpose of the production, we may be doing some miscalculation. We need to actually look at how much has been allocated for irrigation, because under the previous government, they budgeted 3 billion under the PFJ2, okay? And that went all the way to MOFA. That took care of the seeds, fertilizers, the irrigation, and the agribusiness component. But under the current government, they have the agribusiness at MOTI. So there's a different budget over there, taking care of the feed Ghana, feed the industries. Now, the area where we saw about $120 million being given by World Bank for the drought resistance program, which went to the irrigation. This time around, we are seeing that under 24-hour economy. So we want to sit down and pull all these monies that are meant for agriculture projects in different areas together to be able to say, okay, this is the actual available budget allocation for the sector. But as we speak now, the 1.5, we think that is going to cater for the production part. Don't also forget that the budget also has taken care of the vegetable development program, which has been budgeted for separately. Then we also have the greenhouse program also, which has been budgeted for. So I think for some reason we want to wait, because at the end of the minister's statement, he said something that I think that will help us going forward. He said the ministries will be coming out with their own, with a more breakdown. Exactly. When that comes out, it's going to help us to come out with the conclusion whether the 1.5. But as it stands now, we wish that had been moved a bit, because the president is looking at reducing the consumer challenges, especially on food. The cost of producing food must be reduced in the country. And our food importation bill must also be reduced.
I'm going to go round again just to wrap up. But before I do that, I want to go to Eric from AGI, who joined us. We lost him briefly. Yeah, you're going to give me the verdict, the AGI verdict, on the back of what Tia Kabiru had raised about some of the key concerns to AGI and industry.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll look at it this way. The issues that are concerning for us are pending. They've not been fully addressed. The tax waivers that have been removed primarily are consumption taxes that will go to empower the citizenry. Because if you're paying e-levy and you're not paying it anymore, you keep that money in your pocket, you get additional revenue to spend. But when it comes to production, the VAT is a major issue for us, because the production chain, we keep adding value as we go along. And if it is not properly recalibrated, then our costs still remain high. Another aspect of cost for us is the cost of credit. Interest rates are high. Fortunately, the T-bill rates are coming down, and therefore the GRR is expected to come down as well, which is the general reference rate is expected to come down. But it hasn't kicked in yet. So we are hoping that after the MPC meeting, that will come down and then pull down the cost of credit as well. Then the stability of the foreign exchange, because we import a lot of our raw materials, and therefore, if the exchange rate is stable, then it can give us some stability in pricing. Now, what we find as a challenge is that the budget generally has shifted towards social interventions. But we're expecting that there'll be targeted programs at production, which is looking at industrial production, manufacturing, agri sector, construction. Some provisions have been made, but we think it's inadequate. More money should go into production, because if we are able to scale up our production, the end result is more revenue for government. And then government can then apply those revenues into social intervention projects. But when you do the social first, the challenge you're going to have is that industry will not give you enough revenue, and then you're likely to borrow. Then we repeat the cycle that takes us into debt.
The finance minister scrapped the one district, one factory. What's the AGI's thoughts on that?
Well, we have to assess how successful that program was. Did it achieve its aims? We have one district, one factory projects that didn't even receive a dollar or a cedi. So how do you determine that it's a program that you must sustain? But if this government thought that it was a good program and it wants to continue it, but I know that it's been scrapped, because when you do the measurement of the outcomes, it didn't yield much. But if we can have, for example, we talk a lot about poultry and akukon ketenkete. It's a major thing for us, because the poultry value chain is long. If you look at the feeds that you use to produce poultry, you have to do maize, it's an agro product. You have to do soya, it's an agro product. You need fish meal, it's an agro product. You need calcium. There's so much in there that just picking poultry and trying to complete the poultry value chain would require a lot of investment in the agri process. And that is a major thing. We talk about agri, but if we leave gaps in the value chain, we are likely not to succeed. If you produce, it can't reach the market at the right time, you get post-harvest losses, you don't have storage facilities, you have a challenge. So looking at all the arrangements that have been made, big push, infrastructure, like Mr. Morrison was trying to explain, there's possibly going to be some agri infrastructure there. We are not clear on how much is going to go into that. The amount allocated to agri, it's really small compared to the whole expenditure allocation. Because agri, if I do the calculation, agri is receiving just about 0.5% of the 291 billion of our expenditure. That is too low if we're thinking that agri will create jobs and transform the economy. We should be looking at things like between 5 and 10% for agri. When you come to the construction sector, both the big push and the road fund allocations is only coming to 5.6% of the budget. Have we looked at the debt that is sitting there? How are we solving it? The road fund debt, or the road sector debt alone, is about 20 billion, with commitments of 100 billion. If we're going to continue with the programs that have already been awarded on contracts, where are we getting money from to sort that out? The interventions we are talking about, are they new projects? There isn't much clarity. Again, Mr. Morrison highlighted the fact that the minister said the sector ministries or sector ministers will come and present details to us later. So we are still hopeful and watching, and we'll make a final determination when
you hear the
things
details. Let me hear from all my guests in the studio now as we wrap up. Auntie Josephine, I'll start with you. You've heard a lot of the answers from the minister to your questions. Tomorrow you're going back to the market.
Yeah.
Are you going back to the market more hopeful than you came in, having heard everything you've heard. Well, where you stand on that?
Me going to the market, a lot of questions are going to be asked by the market people. How, for instance, you all heard that Katamanton was burnt.
Okay.
A lot of us are in need of money. Like I was asking about the Women Development Bank. How are we in the market going to be assisted? Because some of us have heard about it, but we don't even know how to get in touch with them. So hoping that all these things that we have talked about...
The bank hasn't been set up yet. It's proposed to be set up.
Oh, so it's not been set up?
Yes, so the minister says they will set up. They put money in it. How much money do you devote for the bank?
It's 51 million Ghana cedis.
Yes, a seed capital. So it will set it up, but you haven't set it up yet.
All right.
But they put money there for it.
All right. I hope we will hear about it.
Oh, definitely.
And then some of us can get in touch, then it will spread to the needy in the market. And also about the health insurance. Yeah. You know, health insurance is a big thing that when you are growing, I was always worried about the grown-up people from the age of 50, let me say 50 years. When you go and you have health insurance, still they will take money from you before they take care of you, which I don't think is the best thing for the grown-ups. You go and maybe they will ask of you to pay 5,000.
So what the government did yesterday was to uncap the levy, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So that hopefully the thinking is that to make more money available.
Absolutely. The problem she highlighted, where people go to the hospital, they are supposed to be people who are enrolled onto the health insurance scheme, and yet monies are still demanded from them. Arose because the previous government was starving the health insurance of funds. They introduced a policy called capping and realignment, which meant that upfront, even before the health insurance funds are disbursed, the government takes a chunk of it. And then what is left, which should go to the service providers, do not go. So for many years, there are huge arrears. So when you go to a health facility, they have no option than to ask you to pay. That is the only way they will be in a position to administer any form of health care to you. So President Mama says the capping policy will be removed. It will be uncapped. So all the money that should go to the health insurance will go. Part of the money that accrues from uncapping it will be put into what we call the Ghana Trust Care, or what people popularly call Mahama Cares. In this country, one of the biggest problems we face is a rise in chronic diseases. We know of communicable diseases that spread from one person to the other, but there are lifestyle diseases that are deadly, whose costs for treatment are prohibitive. They are extremely high. So when you are afflicted by those diseases, chances are that you may pass away because you simply cannot mobilize the funds. Like kidney diseases, people who need to do dialysis on a weekly basis. And we know how expensive it is. People suffering from diabetes-related ailments, people suffering from heart-related ailments, and what have you. So this trust fund is then able to provide money for people who cannot afford so that they seek that health care. There's also something we call primary health care, which will complement the efforts of the folks who run the National Health Insurance Authority. So part of that money will go there. So the National Health Insurance Authority, or National Health Insurance, fund, is going to get the money they should get. So when you go to the hospital, your treatment can be catered for, and you will not be asked to, as it were, provide some supporting funds. On the Women's Development Bank, the seed capital is 51 million Ghana cedis, which means that is what government is putting into the bank. But because it is a bank, it will mobilize resources from elsewhere. It is meant to cater to the needs of entrepreneurs, especially women, who need some capital but are at the lowest level of the trade or business. So there are people, when you come to AAK, for instance, there are people who require, they come to you and say they need monies to trade. You ask them how much, and they need as low as 300 cedis, 500 cedis, 1,000 cedis, 2,000 cedis, 5,000 cedis. So for people like that, they are going to get extremely low interest rates, which makes it possible for them to turn around the funds in order that they make some profit, plow some back into their business, and be able to pay it off. There are others too who have a much higher ceiling. There too, the interest rates will be most flexible. So that
and Joseph, happy with the responses you got to the last set of questions?
As he said, the whole bank is not ready yet. So we will have to cross our legs and wait.
Okay.
But there are so many things I think they can do for us. By mobilizing us, we can be mobilized so that we'll have the fall ahead that in 3 months or in 2 months or in 5 months, we can get the funds to help us to build our businesses yet again.
Okay, in
So
Catamount
that would
in
happen.
particular.
That would happen because once the budget has been read, once the budget is approved, it becomes government's policy, and implementation will begin immediately.
Moses, give me your final thoughts. You've heard a lot. Your questions he's tried to answer them. Okay. Satisfied?
Yes, I'm satisfied, but in one way or the other, there's something that I also want to find out. You see, I'll
put all the questions together, and then we can wrap up with it, because I also want to hear Tiago.
I will say that as government has removed some of the taxes, they should look at efficiency, speed. Because in the import industry, speed is very, very important.
Yeah.
Okay, so government should look at the processes, either at the ports and also at the MDAs, the agencies. Because some of the one product, you have to go for approval with about 3 or 4 or 2 agencies before you can import or even clear it at the port, which is not really. And one issue about the port too is, I think there's a cast officer is with laptop or palm top, and he's still requesting for paper.
Yeah.
So they should, at least there should be some.
Okay.
So
basically, this is the second time or third time since you mentioned it. So you want port reforms?
Yes, port reforms. Yes, efficiency.
I don't think I had anything about it in the budget. You clarify. I don't think I had much of that in the budget. Okay, yes. But thank you. Let me hear from the farmer, Nana.
Yeah, I will go back to the cocoa.
And very briefly, so that I can hear from Eldad.
Cocoa has declined 50%, you know.
Yes.
And then we can double up. We have what it takes to double up. And then also, as I'm sitting here, I can boldly tell you that by the time maybe I'll leave here, maybe one call that will come that I will say yes or maybe no, there'll be no cocoa trees in this country. I'm saying this all because there are people around that they have huge amount of money that they've bought some of the cocoa farmers their cocoa, which the farmers even now, they are no more even interested with the cocoa production because one, they are talking about the pricing of the cocoa is being low. And then two, the rubber plantation is fetching more money than the cocoa. And then three, the galamsey is disturbing them. And then it seems Parliament have no authority or have no power to make sure that this galamsey is over in this country. And then also, we always talk about the backbone of our economy is agriculture. But then it is not true, all because I've not even heard Parliament debating seriously about our farming or maybe let's say cocoa in Parliament. They are destruction of cocoa. They are cutting down our cocoa trees. And it seems Parliament are putting wax in their ears. It is only we, the concerned farmers, that we are fighting for this. And we are fighting with our own pocket, our own money. And as I'm talking to you, Pristia Huni Valley, that area, most of the cocoa trees, by tomorrow, if it is down, it will affect Ghana cocoa production.
Is it because of the galamsey there?
It is not because of the galamsey there at that side. But then I said there's a video that the president have to watch. Okay. I said it when Akufo-Addo was there, and then they refused to watch that video. And this is my last time of saying this. If the president of the land, John Dramani Mahama, refused also to go for this video, then that is all.
Okay. Let me hear from Eldad. Eldad, you're a student. The questions about... I didn't ask you whether you were satisfied with the questions about how you're measuring outcomes, but give me your wrap on this, whether holistically, having read the budget, having heard the explanations, your key questions, they were adequately addressed.
I think it's too early to say certain things, but all I can say right now is students are watching, we are listening, and we are hoping to get the best as it has been presented to us. For example, there are questions on the no fees stress initiative.
For first years.
Is the budget addressing 100% no fees being taken from first year students?
That's a question that you can answer yes or no. Is the budget addressing 100%?
Well, it's taking academic fees. That is the largest item.
So everything else you have to.
And then the
registration and facility use.
Absolutely.
Is being absorbed.
It's absorbed, yeah.
Okay.
Because that's the biggest barrier to people entering. Because at least for the first year. Subsequent years, there's a Students Loan Trust Plus, which gives you the opportunity to be able to access funds to pay.
Honourable Minister, just for clarity, I just wanted to repeat that again. Registration, facility user fees, and academic fees are being absorbed.
That is what is being absorbed. That is being absorbed by government.
Okay.
For students in public tertiary institutions.
So what happens to those in the
for now? We need to begin from somewhere.
Okay.
So eventually,
students also hope that moving forward or in the coming years, there wouldn't be any hidden fees agenda being fabricated or being planned by institutions. You know, we would also want to know if governments have any measures put in place to make sure that some of these things don't arise.
Of course, we will be keeping a keen eye on the institution. There's a regulator, the National Council for Tertiary Education, which has oversight on the activities of the universities.
And then lastly, how can the student body or students, how can they track the progress of all these initiatives? And, you know, if there are any reports that we need to make.
So if you're a first year student and you apply, you get your admission, and the modalities will be put in place, how to log on, how to enroll on the program, and how to have...
Are you targeting September when a new academic...
well, as far as I know, it is going to start immediately. The Education Minister has indicated that those who have paid already, because the academic calendar, you know, is not the same as it used to be. So it's become a bit confusing. One of the problems...
So you refund?
So those who have paid will have their monies refunded.
Okay.
Will it also be possible for government to provide some periodic reports?
I know you have a lot of questions.
Every money that government spends is audited.
It's a good one. That's why you brought it, but I need to...
If you pick the previous year's budget and match it against what is presented subsequently, you will find that an account is given on how much has gone into every program. And you can find out. If you're a student and you qualify, and for some reason you are bypassed, let the authorities know.
So there is this thing about the new patriotic party not having the ability to comment on national issues. As far as we have lost power, we have become like ordinary Ghanaians. That's the status quo. And the fact that we raise genuine issues of national development should not descend into you were this, you were that. The benefit of the people who come to listen to us demands that we ask the relevant question, we do the national critique. Otherwise, people will also go back to 2016. What didn't happen wrong? What happened and what didn't happen? And that will not advance national discourse. There is this 24-hour economy that has been repeated here. But in the budget, there is nowhere in the budget, I have studied the budget, that I find 24-hour economy being budgeted for by way of an intervention related to 24-hour economy. Nowhere in the budget. But we speak as if it's been catered for in the budget. Of course, the finance minister admitted that there's not even policy on it yet. They are going to have a policy. So maybe, from 2026, we can begin to see initiatives related to that, and that can put it on. And I think that this has to be put on context, so that people will not think that 24 hours is coming to give us jobs, when in the budget has not even expressed it by way of concrete interventions related to that. There is this also feeling, and Ghanaians are just thinking that, it is a communication by the government that you uncap it. As if when you uncap, money is there. The economy is projected to decline in growth, which also means that taxes are projected to decline, all other things being equal. So if you say, like, if I uncap it, there's going to be money. The money is not sitting somewhere waiting for you. You are assuming that money will be realized from the economy through the production system. That assumption itself is a hypothetical situation. The last thing I want to comment, look, the AGI mentioned about the fact that this expenditure is consumption. We blame the previous government. We said there were 300 appointees at the presidency, and they were spending some 300 million Ghana cedi. In this budget, Office of the President compensating 2.7 billion.
Compensation for?
You see, I said Office of the President.
No, Evans, compensation for?
Well, you want to...
Those questions...
Yes, that's really important. So, you raise the issue.
I'll come to you. You'll have the final word so that you can respond.
Absolutely.
The previous government had 300 people in course. They even added civil servant. They went to town to read. But you see, we are looking at efficiency of government. And we say we are reducing government in terms of the size of government from whatever ministers, 6,800 and something ministers to 60 ministers. There must be corresponding reduction. There must be corresponding reduction in the expenditure of the office of the president and the office of consumption in general. But the budget this year far outweighs the budget of the Nana Akufo-Addo in the election year. You get, in an election year, the president will be wanting to do certain things to win power, just like every president will do. But this is not election year, this is just the first year. So imagine we are spending more than the election year of the president, which is measured on consumption. What would happen if we get into 2028? So when they say compensation, one would expect that, look, with the Alin government, you should do the same as Nana Akufo-Addo did in the rest of the compensation. I'm not even talking of the total budget. The total budget, they have vehicle, there's 4 billion that is going to be spent by the office of the president. So I'm just talking of compensation alone is 2.7 billion.
Let him get a final word.
Member of Parliament cannot deliberately mislead people and misinform.
So what are the facts?
Evans, when you talk of compensation, you are talking about payment to civil servants. As I speak to you,
but that was the case then.
Kabiru, you said you didn't want me to interrupt.
But that was the case then.
There was no case. You are deliberate. You worked at the Vice President's office. You had 27 employees there. President Mahama has, under President Mahama, Professor Nana Akufo-Addo has 10 people. There are only 30 political appointees at the president. You had 336. Even the class 1 people will know that you will spend far less on those number of political appointees than you. Kabiru, but please.
No, he's asking the budget.
Of course, because you are peddling falsehood, you are deliberately misleading. You don't want me to explain.
You know, listen, when you were deliberately
so if your budget, Evans.
Budget, so we should refer to it. That's all.
It's okay. It's okay.
Evans, I'm saying that even the class 1 people knows that if you have 30 people, you will pay them far less than you will pay 336 people. This is why I don't need to be a PhD or that like my brother to know this. But the office of the president has had to absorb the civil servants in the ministries that have been collapsed. So like my ministry, Ministry of Information, there used to be a ministry that had 76 employees. Now there are only 5 of us involved in the management of government business. But there are civil servants who work at ISD. There are 1,309 of them. There are civil servants who work at the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, 1,115 of them. There are civil servants who work at GNA, 133 of them. There are civil servants who work at the National Security Council because their parent ministry, the National Security Ministry, has been collapsed. Civil servants who work at the research department. You know what the research department is? It's one of our intelligence agencies who focus on external intelligence gathering. The National Signals Bureau, the National Intelligence Bureau used to be called the NIB. They add up to 30 different entities under the office of the president, all civil servants. So if these people had not been absorbed by the office of the president, they would have been paid under their mother ministries. So President Mahama has not been given 2.7 billion to give to political appointees. The 2.7 billion is going to thousands of civil servants. President Mahama has not hired one more civil servant that he came to meet. And we have not sacked civil servants. We have only sacked political appointees. And I'm repeating, President Mahama has 30 political appointees. They had 336. Even the class 1 people will know that you will spend far more on 336 than 30. Felix. So I don't expect a member of parliament to say, and you see people like Gideon Buako, Kojo Oponkuma, who should know, are deliberately, in fact, in some instances, when he sues them, they say that President Mahama has been given 11. I kept quiet.
I've not been on my show.
I kept quiet. Because you are the source.
Attack the fact.
But you have not put out any facts. First of all, Evans, they claim that President Mahama has been given 11 billion. This is the Office of Government Machinery. Do you see 11 billion here?
What is the amount?
It is 3.8 billion, but 2.7 billion is going to compensation of employees. Evans, this is the list, full list of the agencies under the Office of Government Machinery. There are, in fact, we've scrapped 3 of the creations: Coastal Development Authority, Middle Belt Development Authority, Northern Development Authority. But Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, we didn't used to be there. Information Service Department, we didn't used to be there. Ghana News Agency, National Security Council, Research Department, National Signals Bureau, National Intelligence Bureau. All of these, Public Sector Reform Secretariat, Council of State, State Protocol, Scholarship Secretariat, Office of the Administrator General, Public Enterprise Secretariat, Zongo and Inner Cities Development Secretariat, which they created, Ghana AIDS Commission, National Identification Authority, National Population Council, Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Millennial Development Authority, Internal Audit Agency, MASLOC, State Interest and Governance Authority, which they created, National Center for Coordination of Early Warning and Response Mechanism. They are all civil servants.
Okay.
No, they were not. They were not. Ghana Broadcasting was not.
Okay.
GNA was not. ISD was not. No, but you see, because you are creating the impression.
But you can't
Evans.
Just 1 minute.
So they are intentionally displaying willful ignorance. They know
thank you very much, Felix. Morris saying you will return. Don't worry. I mean, you are almost a tenant here, so you don't have any reason to complain. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope that at least you got some of your answers, some of your questions answered. Enjoy the rest of your evening.